In the wake of the shuttle's retirement, the private space race has begun. So who will be the first to go to Mars to commercialize interplanetary transport? I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me in studio, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. So it was recently reported that SpaceX, the private company, will be launching the first privately funded spacecraft mission to the ISS, the International Space Station, at the end of April. Terry, what are the details of this mission and what's led up to it here?
Well, I don't know if you've heard, Alan, but we no longer have a way to get up there. So it's either that or we pay the extortionate prices at the
$65 million per
Russian
person,
one,
right?
yeah.
The Russians want $65 million per.
So we've decided to let the private sector do something with this, and it's a good start. I mean, they're working with the government. I'm not real keen on that, but you know, when you look at the costs in the private market versus the public market, it's really a vastly different
yeah,
picture.
it's interesting. I was on an Alaskan cruise last summer, and they have these speakers there, and one of them was an old-time astronaut. I mean, he must have been probably 70 years old, and he was one of the original astronauts, and has done lectures. And he's a very, very engaging guy. And I went up to him afterwards, and I said, you know, do you feel nostalgic for the loss of the manned space program? And he goes, oh my God, no, it's so inefficient. Price per cubic foot to get something up for a pound to get something into space, and he listed all of these figures. And I expected him to have tears in his eyes about the loss of the mission, the manned mission to space, and he was just excited about the efficiencies that were going to happen in terms of price per pound per altitude.
Just very briefly, because I don't want to interrupt what Yaron is going to say, but this year we will spend $19 billion on NASA. And NASA will do basically nothing. I mean, SpaceX got up and running in 4 years for $300 million, and now they have a rocket, the Dragon, ready to go into space.
I mean, yeah, they should shut down NASA. I mean, I think it served its purpose, whatever that was, and it's time to turn this over to privatization. And we were talking the best way to do this would be to privatize space itself. That is, tell entrepreneurs that whoever gets to the moon or to Mars or an asteroid or whatever, they can build a fence. What was the Homestead Act? I mean, you know, you go into Oklahoma and wherever you put a fence around and you cultivate the land, it's yours. If you can build a mining operation and set it up on the moon, it's yours. You know, and then you'd really see competition. Then you'd really see people trying to do this for commercial reasons, and that would be exciting. The idea of space colonization, ultimately through private means.
But on the other side of this, I mean, you see, Terry, I mean, there was a 60 Minutes thing. 60 Minutes covered both SpaceX and the guy who started it, the guy who sold PayPal.
Musk, yeah.
And it's very interesting because he's not an aerospace guy. I mean, he's just a computer guy who has a passion for it, which is very, very interesting. But they did a story on the coast down there by the Cape Canaveral and how devastated it's been by the retirement of the shuttle program. These towns are going to waste. Everyone's packing up and leaving. Very emotional stories, and businesses that have been there for decades going up in smoke. How do you compete with that emotional narrative? Because I bet everyone who watches that story gets a sense of pride about what NASA did, the space shuttle program, the vibrancy of those coastal businesses, and how it's all kind of going to smoke, and watching these shuttles go to the museums.
Well, and we even see some conservatives get all wistful about, you know, time back in the 60s when we were a great country and we were sending men to the moon and all that stuff. Look, the only reason I believe, the only reason the government would have to be in outer space is for defense reasons. And that, I think, is a legitimate government organization, that government should organize something that would assure that we do not get...
but NASA doesn't send up military space.
No, they do not.
They're not. That's not part of their responsibility.
This would have to be something within the Defense Department. I just don't see much use for NASA whatsoever, other than something, you know, part of the bread and circuses they use to keep us.
No, part of under SpaceX, I wanted to hit you in terms of, like, the government is funding SpaceX.
Yes,
I mean, they're going to pay SpaceX to make these missions to the ISS.
Yeah, I mean, they should sell the International Space Station. They should privatize everything they can in space. They should tell people that any stuff they bring back from space is theirs. They should open us up to true private competition. And look, for every one of those towns shutting down, and as sad as it is in Florida, there's a new town out here in the desert in California where SpaceX and these other companies have set up shop that is thriving as a consequence. You know, if you travel around the West, you'll find old ghost towns that were copper mines. And, you know, this is creative destruction. This is the process in which people move around. You know, they're old steel mills that are shut down in the Midwest. But you know what? We have Silicon Valley that didn't exist in the 50s. So, you know, this is a healthy activity of finding the more productive avenues. And I agree completely with Terry. We definitely need a Defense Department initiative in space. We need to use space for national defense. But other than that, everything else can, should, and we'd be much better off if it was privatized.
Terry, last question. Is SpaceX profitable yet?
According to Musk, it is profitable, and he claims. I saw an old handout they put out several months ago. They claim to have a backlog of something like $3 billion in business. So it sounds like they've got a profitable future in the coming if they're not already there.
And it means that we taxpayers are not paying for this stuff, or at least not paying for it directly. That private entrepreneurs are taking risks and building stuff with their own capital.
Virgin Galactic. You have, you're going to be able to take the space plane up there for what, $200,000 per ticket?
Not me.
You're not going to do that?
I'm not doing it.
Well, the first one's
will be. I've seen the car you drive, Yaron. Come on, where's your ticket to on Virgin Galactic?
As long as it's on the ground, I'm willing to go any speed you want.
Use your tax return to go. The thing is, $200,000 now, but maybe in 15 or 20 years it'll be down to $10,000.
Yeah, I was thinking 20, 30,000, and a lot of people will probably pay that. All right, thank you, gentlemen. For Yaron and Terry, I'm Alan Barton, and you've been watching Front Page.